This is the part 2 in solving number or integer problems. When we go to number 2, we are now given with another unique situation. Here we are, let's start with this situation, the first situation. Here, our problem is this. Two consecutive multiples of 3 adds up to 75. Now, we are asked about both numbers. Now, there is no clear situation here as to what is the relationship between two numbers aside from they are consecutive and they are both multiples of 3. Again, they are consecutive and they are both multiples of 3. So that is actually your step A. We are given with two numbers and they are both consecutive. When you say consecutive, they are next to each other, and they are multiples of 3. What are multiples of 3? The smaller multiple of 3, positive multiple of 3 is 3. And you will have 6 and then 9, 12, so on and so forth. Please think of that because in our next step, which is in considering, we are going to give representations. Now, it's obvious that when two numbers are next to each other in short, consecutive, one is smaller than the other. As I have mentioned earlier, when you talk about number problems, it's always important to assign the simplest form of the variable, let's say x, to the smaller number. So we'll have here this representation. Let x be the smaller. After that, we need to understand what should be the representation for the larger number. Now, unlike in number one earlier that we have the situation and we came up with 3x plus 10, here we are only given with the situation that they are consecutive and they are multiples of 3. Now, let's talk about two numbers that are multiple of 3, 3 and 6. So from 3, you go to 6, you added 3 steps. Let's talk about another multiple of 3. Let's say 30 and 33. 30 is the smaller, 33 is the larger, but from 30 to 33, you also added 3. Why am I doing this? Please take note that if you talk about relationship of numbers, specifically consecutive multiples, you need to understand that to get the other number, you're just adding a specific and a unique number to get that. So if x is the smaller number, let's say 3, its next number is 6. So to get from 6, it's either you multiply by 2 or you add by 3. We can trim it down by looking at 30 and 33. Of course, you do not multiply 2 to 30 to get 33, but instead you add it by 3. So if we talk about multiples of 3 and consecutive, the relationship between the two is that to get the larger number, you are just adding 3. So here's the thing. If the smaller number is x, then the larger number should be x plus 3. Let's take this for a while. If x is 12, which is also a multiple of 3, the next multiple of 3 to 12 is 15. Is this correct? 12 plus 3, do we get 15? Yes. So that is the correct representation for the larger number. Now, this is a different now if we have multiples of 5. So instead of 3, you'll be adding by 5. If multiples of 8, you'll be adding by 8. Multiples of 2, you'll be adding by 2. So take a look at those analyses. This is not the correct representation for the two numbers. Step 3, translation. We can assume here that this statement is correct, stating that they add up to 75 because we don't have other relationships now. Have here they could add up to 75. And what could be added to the 75? It states there that two consecutive multiples of 3, in short, the smaller again plus the larger should sum up to 75. Or if you don't like smaller and larger, you could use consecutives. But since in step C or step 2, we used smaller and larger, let's just be consistent here. So the smaller, when added to the larger multiple of 3 and they are given to be consecutive, they must have to 75. Looking at the symbols used, we are going to have it here. The smaller is now given as x, and the larger is x plus 3. They must sum up to 75. And with this equation, you are going to proceed now to the implementation or the solving process. And it follows this step. We need to add the two variables first to get 2x plus 3 is equal to 75. And then we subtract, sorry, we subtract 3 both sides to get the expression 2x is equal to 72. And finally, we are going to divide this by 2 here as well to cancel that out. The value for x is 72 halves, or 72 divided by 2, which is actually 36. Going back to step C, or second step in our action abbreviation, X stands for the smaller a multiple of 3. When we proceed to step O, since we are asked about the two numbers, we could actually think of the next as multiple of 3 to 36. And we know that to be 39. Okay, just to follow the mathematical computations, we are going to use this representation and we hope to reach 39. Now it's x plus 3, and x as given here is 36 plus 3. So yes, it's correct that it's actually 39. This is x plus 3, which is the representation of the larger number. So this is now our answers. You have 36 and 39 to be your consecutive. That's correct. Okay, they are consecutive and they are both multiples of 3. But to finish this, let's have our step N to neutralize the situation, saying that the smaller and the larger of the two consecutive multiples of 3 adds up to 75. And by checking, you will have to substitute 36 plus 39. Is it equal, again, question mark, to 75? Making sure that both sides are the same. 36 plus 39 is obviously 75. You also have here 75. They are the same. This means that these two values of our what that we have solved earlier are the correct values in the given situation. If you may would like to continue, you could also stay here, state here that the two consecutive multiples of 3 are 36 and 39. Just to end the situation with the result. So this is for number 2. Our last problem here tells us that there are 3. Okay, the first step is A. There are 3 numbers. So we are asked about, we are given with 3 numbers. And by the way, we are asked about the value of those 3. So expect that we are going to represent, use, solve, and check 3 different values in this situation. And how is it done? Let's try to have our representation. Step C is which is on considering. Looking at the problem here, the largest, take note there, we have here the term largest, is 4 times the smallest. So I already have given with 2 different numbers. The third number is 12 less than the smallest. So we are given with 3 different numbers and we need to represent them properly. The easiest, again, is by giving the simplest form of representation to the smaller, but in this case, the smallest number. So let x be the smallest. Why? Because looking at the situation, the first state or the second statement rather, largest number or the largest number is connected to the representation of the smallest. The third statement tells us that the third number is also related to the smallest. So the two other numbers are related to one specific number we call the smallest. So it's easier for us to use that as our simplest form. And with that, we can actually write here the other representation for the largest. Pardon if I have written the largest first instead of the third number, since it follows the given situation, so that you will be guided. And you will have here be the third number. So I did not place here middle number, just the third number. Okay, so it's like that. So let's look at the proper representation for the largest number. Looking at the second statement, it tells us that the largest is 4 times the smallest. If we have x as the representation of the smallest, what should be the representation of the largest number? Take note, 4 times stands for a product of 4 and the smallest. So this stands for the situation for the largest number. Again, the largest is 4 times the smallest. So if the smallest is x, the largest is 4x. For the third number, we have the situation that it's 12 less than twice the smallest. Take note of the play of the keywords and please be guided. Yes, it's correct that when you say twice, it's 2x. That's correct. And if you say less than, it's the keyword for subtraction. But you need to understand the correct use of the term less than. It actually reverts the two terms. So some of you might say, I will have here, sir, 12 less than twice the third number, or I mean twice the smallest, and the smallest is x, so you use here 2x. But this is not the representation for 12 less than twice the smallest. We will say less than, it reverts the given terms. So the correct representation here is 2x minus 12. Again, you might want to review the video for the translation for you to be guided with this. These are now the representation for the three numbers in this situation. Step T stands for translation. And where do we focus on our translation? Look at the first statement. It tells us that they must sum up to 100. What are they? They are actually the smallest, the largest, and the third number, when added, will result to 100. So this is now what the first statement is telling us, that their sum must be 100. So in this case, our next step is just to simply use the translation here. Smallest is x, the largest, so you have plus 4x, and the third is plus 2x minus 12, and they are equal to 100. This is now the equation that you're going to use for our implementation. Step I, solve them. So we need to add all of this first. So x plus 4x plus 2x, please review your operations of polynomials. You will get 7x minus 12 equals 100. Since it's minus 12, we will add 12 both sides. And you will have 7x is equal to 100, sorry, 112. Then divide 7 both sides. You will get the expression x is equal to, what is now the quotient of 112 and 7? So you have 70, that's 10. You have 42, you have 6. So you will have here the result, which is 16. Let's try to review. 7 times 6 is 42. 2. carry 4. 7 times 1 is 7 plus 4, 11. So you will get 110. This is now the value of the variable, which is also the representation of the smallest number in this given situation. With this value, we could continue to step O, stands for overplay, as we solve the other two numbers since we are asked about the three numbers here. So with x as 16 to be the smallest, the largest is given to be 4x. This is actually 4 times 16, which is the smallest, and then we get 4x to be 64. And this is the value again of the sorry, largest number. As for the middle or the third number, we have here the expression 2x minus 12. So when we solve this, that's 2 times 16 minus 12. 2 times 16 is 32 minus 12. So 2x minus 12 with the value of x being 16 should be 20. This is the value of your third number. To finalize this step, we need to have step n. N stands for neutralize or checking. And what idea are we going to use as part of our checking? The idea in this translation here. Let me copy this, or I have copied that already, and move it here. It tells us that the sum of the smallest, the largest, and the third number should be 100. And let's try to check whether the sum of these three here is 100. The smallest is 16. The largest is 64. And the third number is 20. Will they sum up to 100? Let's find out. 16 plus 64 is 80 plus 20. You will get 100. The other side is already 100. So this is a proof that our answers here for the smallest being 16, the largest is 64, and the third number to be 20 are all correct. We could have our final statement here just to finish this step that the three numbers are 16, 64, and 20 in no particular order. This is how we solve number 3. So mind you, when you solve number or integer problems, you need to look at the given situation for these numbers. So in number 1, we just used this relationship between the two numbers given here. In number 2, we have learned consecutive numbers and multiples. And number 3, we dealt with three different numbers. So use this as part of your review for your assessment soon. Thank you very much for watching. See you.